YouTube, what's going on? This is Marcus, BlackMarriedDebtFree. I hope you guys are well. Instagram. Oh, got a little notification. Instagram, what's going on? This is Marcus, BlackMarriedDebtFree. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm recording the podcast live again today. I am solo. What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus, BlackMarriedDebtFree. I am solo on the ones and twos today. Shira is away. She's working. And for those of you who don't know, me and Shira work off shifts. So for the most part, we see each other on Saturday all day, Sunday part of the day, Friday part of the day. So yeah, it sucks. But for those of you who've been asking where Shira has been, she's working. So, I just want to be able to provide you guys with quality, consistent content here on the Black Married and Debt Free podcast. So that's why you've been getting a heavy dose of just Marcus. But glad you guys are on. And today we're going to continue the conversation from last week's podcast when we were talking about all things real estate and everything, real estate investing. We had a lot of great questions, and there were so many good questions that we couldn't even really tackle them all. So I thought we'd do a part two, and finish things off, have a good time. Let's talk about it. Real estate is something that, me and Shira are really excited about. We've acquired 2 properties out of state, and we're working on our 3rd currently. So yeah, we're very passionate about it. We love passive real estate investing. We believe that it is possible to be a real estate investor and do so passively and do so out of state. So, we just want to share the little bit that we've learned, over the years of doing that. And so that's why we bring you this type of stuff on our platform. So once again, I am live. I love this live thing. I'm live on Instagram. I'm live on YouTube, and I'm recording the podcast live. So yeah, let's dig right in. So we have a couple questions that I'm going to read off. And then as you guys have questions on whatever platform you're viewing this on, feel free to type them in, and I'm going to try to get to them all. Okay. So, here's a question that we just got in from YouTube. We'll start there. So Adrian says, what other states are hot right now to purchase? That's a good question. So all I can share with you, I do try to study the market in general across the US, but me and Shire have our sights set on a couple different areas that we think are doing well. We purchased our first properties in North Carolina. So we wanted to look in the Charlotte market, which is doing really good on the rental side. So we were looking at Charlotte. I have a friend of mine moved to Charlotte. That kind of piqued my interest. And so we were looking in Charlotte, North Carolina, but that area was bustling very much so at that point. And it's like a big commuter, a big, what's the word I'm looking for? People from all over are moving to that area. So that drove the price of the market up. So rent was good, but so were the home prices were very, high too. So we said, okay, well, let's look at, we looked at Raleigh, North Carolina, and then, which is the 2nd largest city in North Carolina. And then we looked at South Carolina, we looked at some states there, but we just settled on Greensboro, which had good returns. 3-bed, 2-bath for around $100,000, and the rent return was around $1,000. And so we said, oh, that would be a good place to start. Since then, we've done a little bit more research, and there are a few other places in the Midwest that are doing good. Like I said, you want to make sure that where you're looking checks all the boxes as far as your return on investment, which we're going to get into. I'm going to show you how to calculate your return on investment. And then also, the different things like the historical weather conditions and, the type of neighborhood. Is it A class neighborhood, B class, C class, and you just have to go through. It's different for everybody what they're looking for. So to answer that question, it's up to you. It's really about where you want to invest. We are looking in Alabama. I will share that with you. We are looking in Alabama. There's a couple cities in Alabama that are doing quite well, and we've been keeping our ear to the street as far as that's concerned. And so we have our sights set on a couple cities in Alabama, and so that'll probably be our next move. Like I said, there are a bunch of states in the Midwest that you may want to look into. Usually, you're going to get more bang for your buck in Middle America, down south. You want to stay away from your coastal regions because those are going to be higher, costing regions. Just because you're on the coast, it's where people want to be, and so you're going to find that you won't be able to have a good return on investment in those areas. Texas, I see someone asked about Texas. Texas is a place where we looked at, and the very early stages of us wanting to get into real estate investing. And Texas, while the margins were good in some areas, Texas has fairly high property taxes. Thinking specifically of San Antonio, Texas, where the home prices were good and the homes looked amazing. And this was a couple years ago. San Antonio has since then grown significantly. But even at that time, the property taxes were very expensive. They were very expensive. So, you want to look at all of those things to determine what state you want to invest in. So that was a great question, Adrian. I hope I answered your question. So we have a question from William. And William Smith says, I see you getting the properties, but how? What did you do? And how did you finance? Did you put 25% down? So I've answered this a couple of times, but I'll go through it again. The first property that we acquired, we used a portion of the equity that we had in our primary residence. So we paid off our primary residence, and it was worth at the time around $226,000, and we owned it outright. So we said, okay, so let's tap into some of that and let's use our property as a bank and let's go get a house. And so we went and we purchased the first house cash outright. And so we liked that, but we wanted to do it again. Now, looking back, I don't know if how many of you are familiar with the BRRRR method. That's a method that people use when you buy a home that needs work, then you repair the home, then you refinance the home, and you take the cash out, and then you buy again, right? You just repeat. Buy, repair, refinance, repeat. And so we stumbled on that before we invested, but we just didn't put it into action the way we wanted to. And so we ended up buying that first house cash. So then we like, okay, so now we're out of money, right? We want to do this again, but we're out of money. So we eventually saved up enough for a down payment on the second one. So the second house, we just went conventional loan, 20% down, not 25, 20% down, conventional loan. And we did it that way. So that's how we acquired those two properties. And since then, we have paid off the first house. It's done. That one's paid off. So we're super excited about that. And then we're using the second house. We have a strategy for that second house where we're not going to pay that down as aggressively, because we got some things that we're working on. We're gonna share that with you on a later date. But anyway, that's what we did. And that's how we acquired two properties. Now, going back to the BRRRR method, that's a strategy you may want to implement. Because in that situation, you only need a down payment. So you need 20%. So let's say you're getting a house for $100,000, you get 20,000, save up 20,000. You're getting a house that is under market value because it needs repairs. You go into it, you make the repairs, which boosts the equity up. And now that you boost the equity up, you can do what's called a cash out refinance, and you're going to refi the new value of the home. Here's the thing about a refinance though. You can only get 70 to 80%. Some institutions will give you 80% of the value of the home. So that's why it's important to repair the home, to buy a home that needs repairs, that you can increase the value, because you're going to need to increase that value in order to get all of your money back. If you get into a house where you don't increase the value and then you go to refinance, you're only going to get 70 to 80%. So you will not get all of your money back, which pretty much defeats the purpose of the BRRRR method, because the BRRRR method is to get all of your money back and repeat. Buy, repair, refinance, repeat. The BRRRR method. So check that out if you guys aren't familiar with that. It's definitely a strategy that, is really cool. So that's not something that we really wanted to do, only because we didn't want to get into the repair game. We wanted turnkey properties. We wanted a property that didn't need work, that, we could just get in and get a renter in there, which brings me to another question. Let's see here. Someone says, your purchases, how long does it take to rent them out? So with our first property, it took us about 2 weeks. It took us 2 weeks from the day we closed to get a renter into the property. So we were like super excited. Our property manager was amazing. And it was a complete flip. I'm talking about new granite, new countertops, wood floors throughout, new carpet, new floors throughout the living room and kitchen, and then brand new carpet in the bedrooms, new fixtures in the bathroom. It was a complete flip. So that got a renter really quick. It was like one of the nicest homes on the block. And so we got someone in there really quick, 2 weeks. The second house was a turnkey. It was rent ready, but it wasn't a complete flip, and it wasn't a complete updated house. And this is what we also learned, guys and ladies and gentlemen, that 2 bedrooms, when you're going with 3 baths, a 2-bedroom is a must. Our second house was a 3-bed, 1 bath. And that took us about 2 months to get a renter in there. And we weren't stressing, but we were like, we had to pay that mortgage for 2 months. You know what I mean? And so we quickly realized that extra bathroom, is vital. Even if it's a half bath, you want to get, if you got 3 rooms, chances are you have a family that's living in there. So you're going to have people who, want at least 2 bathrooms. So that's something that we learned, and going forward is 3-bed, at least 1.5 bath all the way, because we realized that, that kind of postponed the renter, finding a renter. So that's something we realized. But it varies. And that's why you want to have once again, I feel like a broken record, but that's why you want to make sure you have a good property manager that is working to get, somebody in that property for you, Let's see. We have another question from Adrian. Says, how long did the repairs take and how much? So the cool thing about the repairs, and the cool thing about a property manager, is they repair the property. So I just let me be fully transparent. So when we bought the first property, I set up and I said, I want to make sure that I handle the repair. So I got a home warranty that covered all the appliances, that would send repairmen out. And I connected my property manager to that home warranty program that I had bought for a year. And I did some research on different home warranties. And, this one was pretty good. They said they get someone out within like a day or 2 to fix it. And if they can't fix it, they'll replace it, those kind of things. So I did that. And I connected them with my property manager. My property manager said, okay, we can use that if you like, Mr. Murray. We do have handymen and contractors that will do stuff for us at cost, which is pretty much at a discounted price. And, because they do a lot of work with them. So I was like, okay. So, and the cool thing that I liked about that was that they come out within 24 hours. Whereas me going to with a third party home warranty, they have to find a repairman in that area. Then a repairman has to set a schedule. And meanwhile, your tenant, if their water is leaking or their toilet's broken, they're sitting there just waiting on you to get your stuff together. So I like the idea that our property manager would dispatch someone to fix the issue within 24 hours. So I said, okay, let's go with that. Another cool thing about that is they pay it up front. So let's say you need a toilet replaced. They'll replace the toilet up front, and on the next time your rent disbursement goes out, they simply take the money that they use to make the repair. So it's no out of pocket for you, and that's what I loved about it. I was like, okay, this is really cool. So you just have a little bit less on your rent disbursement that month because they handled the repair for you. But they didn't have to wake you up. They didn't have to, you don't have to go and dip into some bank accounts you have set aside for repairs. No, they just did it for you, and it's just reflected when they pay you out. So I thought that was really cool. And that, once again, that makes it really passive and really, hands off. And that's what I loved about it. If a repair is like crazy, like if you need a new roof, then they'll reach out to you and say, okay, we have to figure this out because we're not going to spend $5,000-$10,000 on a roof for you, and front you that, you know what I mean? So, but like anything under like $500, they would front it. And so it's been really great, man. It's been really great. So I hope that answers your question about the repairs. So last week we got a question about, just in general about like return on investment and stuff like that. And I want to be sure that I'm giving you guys good information. So I'm going to share with you exactly how to calculate a return on investment, an ROI on a property. And I'm going to walk you through it kind of with a mock scenario. Okay. So let me dabble in that for you guys, because I think it'll be beneficial for us to all to know that. So return on investment is a simple calculation, and it's something you want to do before you purchase a property. You want to make sure, man, how much money am I getting? Is this a good return? We talk about returns when it comes to, index funds and stock market. We're always talking about returns there. The same thing applies to real estate. You want to make sure that you're doing something that's going to provide you a good return. So to calculate a return, it's a simple equation. It's the gain on an investment minus the cost of the investment divided by the cost of investment. So I'm going to give you a scenario. So calculate your annual rental income, subtract your expenses from your annual rental income, and this is your cash flow. Then you divide your net income by your total investment to get your rental property return on investment. So now I'm going to give you guys some numbers, because that just sounded like a lot of mumbo jumbo, right? Let me give you some numbers. So let's say you paid for a house and it cost you $100,000. Okay. The house costs $100,000. You found the house of your dreams. You're like, yo, this is the one. Okay. So the closing costs were $1,000. And let's say you had to, do some renovations. Let's say you had to do $9,000 worth of remodeling, right? So that brings the total investment up to $110,000. So the house costs $100,000. You need $1,000 in closing costs, and you needed to put some work in the home. You needed to put $9,000 worth of work into the house. Now, this is an all cash deal. This is an all cash deal, right? So you're all in for $110,000. Okay. You collect $1,000 in rent every month. Okay. So you collect $1,000 in rent. You're all in for $110,000. So by the end of the year, you've earned by the end of the year, you've earned $12,000 in rent, right? So your expenses, now let's talk about expenses. Your expenses include the water bill, property taxes, and insurance. And the total of that, let's say the total of that is $2,400 or $200 a month, right? So your annual return was $9,600. So you made $12,000 off rent, but your expenses were $2,400. So you took home $9,600. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to divide the annual return of $9,600 by the amount of the total investment. So your total investment, remember, you're all in for $110,000. So you're going to divide that. Okay. You're going to divide $9,600 from your $110,000 total. Okay. And your return on investment is 8.7%. That makes sense? So if you did those numbers correctly, you should come out with 8.7% return, which is cool. It's cool. The stock market usually can get you, you hope that your stock market or an index funds or however, can get you around 8% return. So 8% return in real estate is good. Now, it's not great. It's not great. A lot of investors shoot for 12 to 15% return. So that's something to think about. You're all in for a lot of money in this scenario and you're getting 8% return. So it's going to take you a while to get that money back. But, if you're thinking about the long game, this may work for you. This may be great. You're definitely not losing money. And that's what's cool about it. So I hope that helped you guys when it comes to calculating your return on investment. It's just a simple mathematical equation. So just call me asks, is it worth it to mortgage a home for investment? Because I don't have the money to buy a $100,000 home cash. Yeah, I mean, look, I heard, shout out to His and Her Money. We've had them on the show. A great couple. They have a really dope podcast that I listen to, right? And they were interviewing a gentleman that was in the investment game, and they asked him a similar question about going into, mortgaging your real estate or going cash and going debt free. And he said something very interesting. When you're transitioning from paying off your debt and budgeting and doing all those things that me and Shire have shared about, that's you're dabbling and you're in the world of consumerism, and you're changing your narrative in the world of consumerism. You're no longer just buying up stuff. You're budgeting, you're paying off debt, and you're in that world. But when you transition to capitalism, you can in that world you can use debt in some instances to create wealth. And so when it comes to real estate, you're really shifting your mindset. And everyone's different because you can get into the real estate game and just cash it out. But for those of us who can't, leverage is a big thing in real estate. And there's a lot of very, very wealthy people that use leverage or use mortgage real estate. So I'm for it. If the numbers make sense, they make sense. If you're buying a cash flowing asset that will pay itself off, I don't see what the problem is. You know what I mean? If it takes a little upfront money and it's able to pay itself off, I don't see why that would be a bad thing, So yeah. Let's see. Somebody says 8.7 ROA is great because if you bought correctly, forced appreciation and rule of 72 creates financial independence with duplication. Yeah, like I said, 8.7% is a good solid return. It's a good solid return. And there's nothing to sneeze at because your money is making money for you. And that's what the whole goal of this is. And, here's a cool thing about real estate that I really love and that it excites me is that my kids, my grandkids, their grandkids can keep this thing in the bloodline. We can keep this thing going for as long as we want to. It doesn't have to stop with me because if me and Shire, God forbid, knock on wood, pass away, all my children would have to do would be to slide into our position and keep the thing going, and they can still collect the money. It doesn't have to it never has to stop. So that's the beautiful part about real estate that really excites us. And the same goes for, investing in index funds or investing in the stock market. You could pass that down. But this is just like, this real estate is like more tangible. And sometimes people like to touch it and feel it and see it. And you know what I mean? Whereas the stock market is it's more, it's not as tangible. And that's the thing that, I love about real estate. Somebody says you never really own the house. The non-infinite variable here is your lifespan. Okay. Not sure I agree with that, but okay. I'll just say okay to that. Thank you for sharing. And how about that? But let's see. We got a couple more questions, and then we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get out of here. Let's see. Let's see here. Appreciate you guys throwing in these questions. I appreciate you guys being on with us. So let's see here. Somebody says, hey, great info. Have you guys bought an investment property? Yes, we have. We bought 2 investment properties. If you didn't hear us earlier. Yeah, so here's a good question. Somebody says, I live in California and I am also thinking of purchasing a property on the East Coast. My main hesitation in doing so is because I'm unsure of how to maintain a property I don't see on a regular basis. How are you handling this? Are you working with a property manager? Yes, we are. I've shared that before. We definitely work with a property manager, and they handle all the issues. They handle all the tenant issues. They handle vacancy issues. They handle evictions, and it's really passive, and we love it. We love it, and the property manager is a very important piece. So yes, we are. Somebody says I live in Sacramento and I also invest out of state. Oh, cool. That's dope. How do you deal with contractors? That's been my biggest hurdle. So, and this is JMC. I appreciate your question. So as far as the contractors are concerned, we haven't had to have any contractual issues yet. Like I said, on the front end of the podcast, we bought turnkey properties. So we bought properties that needed no work or very minimal work, but our property manager has access to contractors, which is really cool. So they have people on their staff that do work. I know on one property we needed to fix our fence. They were able to do that. There was another property where the door got kicked in, and they were able to fix that. There has been AC issues. They were able to get that fixed. So it's really all about your property manager and how connected they are, because you're really relying on them to be, the boots on the ground, as I like to say. So that has been our experience. We got some more questions in here. It says, my husband and I appreciate you. Where are you located? We're located in Sacramento, California, the state capital of Sacktown. Someone says, do you prefer to buy a multifamily house or a single family house as a first-time buyer? Great question. Man, that's a great question. So if I could do it all over again, you get the multifamily, because you're essentially buying one piece of property, but multiple doors. And it's all about the doors at the end of the day. And while one is vacant, the other could be supplementing the cost of that vacancy. So you're essentially getting a 2-for-1 deal. If you get a duplex, if you get a triplex, a 3-for-1 deal. If you get a quadplex, a 4-for-1 deal. or 4-unit, So I definitely, if you can get that, man, that's wonderful. And don't sleep on the house hack situation. Like I shared in the past podcast, we had our good friends, the Money Monetizers on. And, one of the gentlemen spoke about how he does house hacks. He has a duplex. He lives in the smaller unit, and he, rents out the bigger unit and lives rent free, and cash flows. So yeah, if you can find a duplex, definitely do that. Definitely do that. So let's see. Okay. We got another question that says, how do we connect with you, Marcus? We reached out 5 weeks ago via email, no response. Perhaps it went into spam. I'm going to check my email. Let me see. Thank you for the email address. I'll double check to make sure it didn't go into spam, and I'll respond today. We appreciate all the emails that we get and the questions we get. We try to respond as fast as we can. So hopefully it didn't just get lost in the shuffle, but I will respond to you. You guys, anyone looking to get in contact with Shire and I, email us BlackMarriedDebtFree@gmail.com. We have a mailing list that you can get to. You can look at our Linktree, Black Married Debt Free, on Linktree, and you can see all of our email lists, all of our courses that we are selling and offering, and all of our any way you can reach us. It's going to all be there on our Linktree link, and I'll link this in the description of all these platforms, podcasts, and YouTube, and also Instagram. So Instagram is already there. It's in our description, so you can find us that way. So, man, I appreciate you guys being on with us, and I just love doing stuff like this. Yeah, we got another question that says, good evening. Just jumping on. Did you purchase both rentals in the same general area? Is the rule roughly 10% of the rent? Let me see. Let me make sure I'm reading that right. Is the rule down there roughly 10% of the rent goes? Oh, okay. So you asked for a property manager. So great question, Frank. That was a great question. So Frank's asking, he's asking, did we buy our properties in the same general vicinity? And the second part of that question is, do property managers usually charge 10% in that area? So we did buy them in the same exact zip code. The two properties are about a mile apart. And we thought that was cool just because we had such a great experience with the first house. We was like, why would we change it up? We like the neighborhood. They're like C+, B- neighborhoods. So we liked them. And it was cool. The property manager and the real estate agent, we had built so many connections in that area. We didn't want to go anywhere crazy and get a property somewhere else. So we did keep them in the same vicinity. And as far as the property manager is concerned, it's anywhere from 8 to 12%. I interviewed a few property managers. One lady wanted to charge 12%. Another lady wanted to charge 10%. And the lady we got was just so sweet. A lot of people ask me, who's your property manager? Ralu Property Management. She was just so sweet, just Southern hospitality. You know what I mean? And so I was already feeling her vibe. And then she told me the price was 8%. So I was like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. So yeah, anywhere from 8 to 12% usually is what you would be paying for a property manager. So everybody, thank you for being on all of the platforms. Thank you for checking out this podcast. We really appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Shire and I are offering, and we have created a masterclass entitled Get Out of Debt and Start Building Wealth. This masterclass has over an hour and a half of on-demand video. You can stream that on any device, cell phone, laptop, iPad. We put a lot of work into this masterclass, and we're sharing a lot of the stuff that we share on our podcast and on YouTube and Instagram, but we're diving deep. So you want to be a part of this. It has been blessing people all over the world, really. We have had students in Australia. We've had students in the US all over. So we're excited. And here's the cool thing about the class. Not only do you get all the information, you get supplemental materials and access to a lot of other stuff, but you also get to sit down with me and Shira for 30 minutes. Shira is a certified financial coach. Okay. She got her certification from UC Davis, one of the most prestigious schools in the country. And, I'm just me, so we take the education piece and we take the real life experience and we just mash it up like one big peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And we're able to, sit down with many couples and really bless them and answer any questions they may have as to, how to navigate this whole debt-free thing and this whole wealth building thing. So we're here to help. The class is available. I'm going to have links in all of these, but yeah, check the links in the descriptions and definitely you want to join this class if you haven't already. All right. So for Marcus Murray, I miss Shira. She was not here. My best friend. But it has been fun, having you guys on with me. So I appreciate you guys keeping me company. And we're going to holler at you on the next one. All right. Talk to you later. Peace.